Emma felt her heart lurch as she read the message on her phone, a betrayal she never imagined from her closest friend, Lucas. Every memory they shared flickered like broken glass in her mind. She sank to the floor, disbelief weighing her down. Tears blurred her vision as she clutched the phone, her fingers trembling. How could someone she trusted so completely turn against her? The room felt smaller, suffocating with the shock of treachery. Emma's breathing grew shallow, each inhale sharp with panic. She whispered his name, hoping for an answer that would never come. Outside, the wind rattled the window pane, echoing her inner turmoil. Every sound seemed louder, harsher, as if the world itself mourned the fracture of her friendship. She knew life would never feel the same again. Lucas's betrayal hit Emma like a physical blow, leaving her numb and shaking. She replayed every conversation, every shared secret, questioning her own judgment. Friends' voices outside sounded distant and hollow. Her living room, once cozy, now felt alien, heavy with unspoken truth. She could almost hear Lucas's laughter, a cruel echo in her mind. Anxiety gnawed at her chest, each heartbeat a reminder of trust shattered. She wanted to scream, to call for someone to tell her it wasn't real. But silence wrapped the apartment in suffocating stillness. Emma's mind raced through what-ifs, her fingers tracing invisible lines across the table. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, warping reality. The betrayal wasn't just a broken friendship, it was a mirror revealing her own vulnerability, her own blind spots. Emma stared at the empty chair across from her where Lucas should have been. Each tick of the clock pounded in her ears, amplifying the silence. Her mind wandered to shared secrets, laughter and promises, now hollow and meaningless. She wanted answers, but fear froze her voice. She remembered the small gestures, the reassuring smile, the trust she had given freely. Anger and sorrow warred within her chest. She paced the apartment, each step echoing off the walls. Memories collided with reality, forming sharp edges that cut deeper than she expected. Emma's phone vibrated. She didn't want to see who it was. The betrayal had rewritten her perception of friendship and trust. She sank to the floor again, curling around herself, trying to contain the storm inside. A soft knock at the door startled Emma, her chest tightening. She hesitated before opening, seeing Ally, 29, female, her closest friend, standing there with concern etched across her face. Emma wanted to push her away, afraid anyone else might betray her. Ally stepped closer cautiously, eyes pleading, voice gentle. "I'm here for you," she said. Emma's voice caught in her throat, emotions tangled with relief and mistrust. She wanted to scream, cry, and cling all at once. Memories of laughter together clashed with the current pain. Slowly, she let Ally in, feeling the first thread of comfort tug at her heart. But even in this moment, the fear of betrayal lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. Emma sank onto the couch beside Ally, still shaking, words trapped in her throat. Ally placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, the simple touch grounding her amid chaos. They sat in silence, punctuated by shallow breaths and the faint hum of the city outside. Emma's mind replayed the betrayal in endless loops, guilt and anger mingling like a storm. "I don't know how to trust anymore," she whispered. Ally nodded, understanding, her eyes filled with empathy and determination. Emma felt a fragile hope blossom, a hint that perhaps trust could be rebuilt. Yet, the pain lingered, an invisible scar marking the beginning of a long journey toward healing. The room felt heavy but safe, a small refuge amid the wreckage of broken bonds. Emma sat alone at the small cafe table, the hum of conversation around her fading into a distant blur. Each sip of coffee tasted bitter, reflecting the acrid sting of Lucas's betrayal. She clutched her notebook, scribbling fragments of thoughts she couldn't voice aloud. Memories of laughter and shared secrets collided violently with the present, each one a sharp reminder of trust broken. Her fingers traced the edge of the cup, seeking comfort in the mundane motion. The sunlight streamed through the window, highlighting dust motes in the air, yet it failed to warm her heart. She wondered how easily someone could destroy a bond that had felt unshakable. The world outside moved normally, oblivious to her inner turmoil. Emma felt isolated, suspended between sorrow and anger. She wanted answers but feared facing them alone. Emma's mind wandered to the day she first met Lucas. She remembered the playful teasing, the comfort of shared silences, and the unspoken understanding that had made their bond feel invincible. Those memories now felt fragile, like glass slipping through her fingers. She gripped her bag tightly, heart heavy with disbelief. How had trust turned into deceit? Questions spiraled endlessly, her thoughts looping through scenarios she could never undo. The familiar streets outside the cafe seemed alien, as if betrayal had shifted reality itself. Emma struggled to find stability in her emotions, seeking clarity in a world suddenly painted in shades of suspicion and hurt. Every familiar face passing by reminded her that life moved forward, even when her world had fractured. Ally arrived unexpectedly, her presence both comforting and jarring. Emma's emotions swirled, relief, suspicion, hope, and fear mingling in a chaotic storm. Ali's eyes, filled with concern, met hers, and a silent understanding passed between them. Emma wanted to speak, to demand explanations, to express the hurt and confusion that clawed at her chest. Words stuck in her throat as memories of laughter, trust, and shared dreams collided with the sharp reality of betrayal. Ally reached out, gently taking Emma's hand, grounding her in the present. Slowly, the tension began to ease, replaced by cautious hope. Emma realized that support could still exist even amid the wreckage of broken bonds. The cafe felt warmer now, infused with the quiet promise of understanding and connection. Emma and Ally walked slowly along the quiet city street, the sun beginning its descent, painting the buildings in amber hues. Each step echoed in Emma's mind as she recounted the betrayal, the disbelief still raw in her chest. Ally listened attentively, nodding, her presence a steady anchor against the storm of emotion. Emma felt a flicker of strength as her words flowed, giving shape to the pain she had carried silently. The warmth of companionship offered a fragile hope that trust could be rebuilt. Yet every shadow and distant laugh reminded Emma that recovery would be long and uncertain. The city around them continued unaware, moving with routine, while Emma confronted the fractured landscape of her heart. Each word shared, each silence held, became part of a fragile bridge between despair and hope. Emma paused near a small park bench, the fading sunlight catching strands of her hair as she reflected on the events of the past days. Ally stood beside her, a quiet presence offering support. Emma's mind replayed conversations, moments, and the sting of betrayal. Each memory carried weight, yet she felt a subtle resilience emerging. The thought of confronting Lucas someday felt daunting, but she realized that facing the truth was inevitable. Ally squeezed her hand gently, and Emma allowed herself a small, cautious smile. For the first time since the betrayal, she sensed a path forward. Shadows stretched across the grass as evening approached, but the bond with Ally offered warmth and a tentative sense of security. Emma understood that while trust might never be the same, healing could begin with small, meaningful steps. Emma's world grew heavier as she uncovered a hidden email from Lucas, exposing a layer of deception she hadn't imagined. Every word struck like a physical blow, the truth harsher than any speculation. She sank into her chair, heart pounding, mind spinning with disbelief. Ally leaned close, her hand steady on Emma's arm, offering silent support. Emma's eyes scanned the words again, each sentence deepening the betrayal, twisting memories into painful fragments. She wanted to confront Lucas immediately, but feared the confrontation would leave her exposed, vulnerable. The city outside her window seemed indifferent, sunlight cutting sharply through blinds. Emma realized she was at a crossroads, ignorance no longer an option, courage tempered by fear. The storm inside her matched the growing tension in her chest, an inescapable reminder that trust once broken was never easily mended. Lucas' motives became clearer with each discovery, his manipulations woven into moments Emma had once trusted implicitly. She recalled conversations, gestures, and laughter now tainted by deception. The more she uncovered, the more fragile her sense of reality felt. Emma clenched her fists, fighting the urge to sink into despair. Ali's presence grounded her, yet even her support couldn't erase the gnawing anxiety. Shadows fell across the apartment, long and distorted, mirroring Emma's fractured perception of friendship. She knew she had to act to regain control, yet fear whispered caution. Every plan she considered felt insufficient against the labyrinth of lies. Yet the anger within her began to solidify into resolve. She understood that confronting Lucas was inevitable, the cost of avoiding the truth far greater than facing it directly. Ali hesitated before speaking, choosing her words carefully. "You're not alone, Emma," she said softly. The words carried warmth, yet Emma felt the weight of every decision pressing on her. She remembered trusting Lucas blindly, and the contrast of Ali's unwavering support was striking. The city skyline visible through the window seemed distant, almost unreal, as if her life existed in a separate fractured dimension. Emma paced the room, each step punctuating the tension coiling within her. Fear, anger, and determination collided, forging a new resolve. She realized she could no longer avoid confronting the betrayal. Ali watched silently, understanding Emma's struggle, a steady presence in a sea of uncertainty. The apartment felt both confining and protective, a crucible for Emma's emerging courage. Emma discovered a hidden message on Lucas's voicemail, hinting at alliances she had never imagined. Each revelation added layers of complexity and danger, her heart racing as the implications sank in. She sank onto the couch, feeling the weight of every choice pressing down. Ali handed her a glass of water, her eyes filled with quiet determination. Emma's mind replayed each betrayal, each calculated action, reconstructing the puzzle piece by piece. Anger bubbled beneath the surface, tempered by fear of the unknown consequences. She understood that Lucas's network extended beyond her immediate perception, and confronting him required careful planning. Shadows stretched across the room as sunlight faded, and Emma felt the gravity of the situation like a physical presence. Ali's steady gaze reminded her she was not alone, even in the face of deceit that had seemed all-encompassing. Emma took a deep breath, her resolve hardening as the pieces of Lucas's deception crystallized. She could no longer remain passive. The weight of betrayal demanded action. Ali's presence beside her offered reassurance, yet Emma knew the confrontation ahead would test every ounce of courage she possessed. The evening shadows lengthened across the apartment, a visual reflection of the uncertainty looming outside. She rehearsed possible conversations, imagining responses, bracing for emotional blows. Each memory of trust lost became fuel for determination, every fear a reminder of what was at stake. The city beyond the window continued its indifferent pace, oblivious to the storm raging within Emma's heart. As night approached, she felt the first surge of clarity. She would confront the betrayal and reclaim her sense of agency, whatever the cost. Emma's hands trembled as she opened the folder Lucas had left behind, revealing secrets that shattered every assumption she had held. The depth of deception was staggering, layers of lies entangling her past interactions. Each document felt like a personal assault, twisting memories into confusion and hurt. Ali watched silently, sensing the storm within Emma. Her voice caught when she tried to speak, words of anger and disbelief colliding with the ache of betrayal. Emma realized that the web Lucas had spun went far beyond what she had imagined, touching lives she never suspected. The apartment felt claustrophobic, the sunlight cutting sharply through blinds, illuminating dust motes that floated like tiny witnesses to the unfolding chaos. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her mind, yet every heartbeat reminded her of the treachery that had infiltrated her life. The truth unraveled further when Emma discovered messages indicating Lucas had manipulated others, turning allies into pawns. Her chest tightened as she absorbed the implications. Ali remained close, offering quiet reassurance while Emma's mind raced. She struggled to reconcile the man she knew with the orchestrator of betrayal now revealed. Each revelation amplified the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She realized that ignoring the situation was no longer possible. Action was required, though the path remained uncertain. Shadows lengthened across the room as the afternoon light waned, mirroring the darkness pressing on Emma's thoughts. Her anger sharpened into resolve, tempered by fear of what confronting Lucas might bring. Ali's steady gaze reminded her that support existed even amid the chaos. Emma confronted the reality that Lucas's betrayal was far-reaching, touching even those she cared for. The realization filled her with a mixture of rage and sorrow. She traced connections in her mind, trying to make sense of alliances and secrets that had previously seemed innocuous. Ali watched silently, understanding the gravity of Emma's emotions. The city skyline outside the window seemed distant and surreal, a quiet observer of personal devastation. Emma's pulse quickened as she considered the steps needed to reclaim control. The apartment's familiar surroundings felt alien, distorted by the weight of revelation. She recognized that trust once broken required careful reconstruction, and that confronting Lucas would demand courage and strategy. Each heartbeat reminded her of the delicate balance between action and consequence, fear and resolve. Emma's confrontation with Lucas felt inevitable, yet fear gnawed at her resolve. Every scenario played repeatedly in her mind, each possibility more terrifying than the last. Ali's presence offered comfort, but Emma understood that she alone would face the emotional impact of discovery. The shadows lengthened in the apartment as sunlight faded, highlighting the tension in every corner. Emma rehearsed words, braced for anger and denial, while balancing the fragile hope of reconciliation or closure. Her chest tightened, a mix of dread and determination, as she prepared to confront the man who had upended her world. Every small sound, the hum of the refrigerator, distant traffic, seemed amplified in the charged atmosphere. Emma felt the weight of consequences pressing on her shoulders, knowing that action was both necessary and perilous. The final piece of Lucas's deception fell into Emma's hands, a recording that exposed his motives and manipulations. Her breath caught, anger and betrayal intermingling with a strange clarity. Ali placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her amid the storm of emotions. Emma realized that while the path ahead was uncertain, understanding the full truth was empowering. She could confront Lucas with knowledge, with evidence, and with the resolve forged from every betrayal endured. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long golden streaks across the apartment. Emma's heart raced with anticipation, fear, and the strange thrill of agency regained. Ali's steady presence reminded her that even in the face of treachery, bonds of support remained intact. Emma's mind cleared, her resolve hardened, ready to face the confrontation that would define the next chapter of her life. Emma stepped into the dimly lit cafe, her heart pounding with anticipation and dread. Every footstep echoed like a drumbeat, counting down to the confrontation she had rehearsed endlessly. Lucas sat at a corner table, expression unreadable, eyes scanning the room with casual indifference. Ali trailed behind, a quiet presence anchoring Emma's resolve. Emma's throat tightened as memories of betrayal surged, each one demanding acknowledgement. The air felt heavy, thick with unspoken words and tension. "When do you go?" She drew a deep breath, steadying herself, aware that every decision in the next few minutes would shape the outcome. Lucas' gaze met hers, a flash of recognition and wariness crossing his face. Emma realized that the moment of truth was now unavoidable, and there was no turning back. Lucas's smirk faded as Emma approached, the weight of confrontation shifting the atmosphere. Words that had once flowed easily now caught in her throat, replaced by silence, loaded with accusation and hurt. Ali's presence provided quiet courage, a reminder that Emma was not alone. Every detail of the cafe, the clinking of cups, distant chatter, and flickering lights, felt magnified, as if the world had paused for this confrontation. Emma's pulse raced, mind analyzing every possible reaction, every defensive posture Lucas might assume. Anger, fear, and determination interwove, fueling her courage. She knew that the truth once spoken could not be undone. The stakes were clear. Trust shattered demanded acknowledgement, and healing would only follow confrontation. Emma's voice trembled initially, but grew stronger with each word, recounting Lucas' betrayals and manipulations. Lucas remained silent, his features hardening, eyes narrowing as reality seeped through the cracks of his composed facade. Ali watched attentively, sensing the emotional weight carried in each sentence. Emma felt the release of pent-up frustration, pain, and courage, a cathartic confrontation that had been long delayed. The cafe around them seemed to recede, the ambient noises muted by the intensity of the moment. Emma realized that this confrontation was as much for herself as it was for Lucas, a reclaiming of dignity and agency lost to deception. With every word spoken, the balance shifted, and the truth once buried now demanded recognition. Lucas's defenses faltered as Emma detailed the consequences of his actions, the ripple effects of betrayal on lives beyond her own. His eyes widened, a flicker of guilt betraying his stoicism. Ali's gaze never wavered, reinforcing Emma's strength. The emotional intensity swirled in the small cafe, shadows lengthening as afternoon sunlight dipped through windows. Emma's voice was steady now, a mix of authority and vulnerability, recounting betrayals and hidden motives. The confrontation was raw, uncomfortable, yet necessary. Emma sensed that honesty, even in its harshest form, was the only path toward clarity. With Ali at her side, she felt capable of facing any reaction Lucas might have. The air vibrated with tension, a crucible for trust, accountability, and the possibility of resolution. Emma concluded her confrontation, her heart racing but her mind clear. Lucas's silence confirmed the weight of her words. Ali exhaled softly beside her, relief mingling with cautious hope. Emma realized that closure was not a single moment but a process, a reclamation of trust, boundaries, and personal agency. She felt empowered, having faced the betrayal head-on, supported by Al's unwavering presence. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the storm navigated within the cafe walls. Emma's resolve solidified. She would rebuild her life and relationships carefully, with clarity and courage guiding each step. The confrontation had marked the turning point, a beginning of healing and a cautious restoration of trust. Emma walked through the quiet streets, the city lights flickering in reflection on wet pavement. Each step echoed with the weight of recent revelations, the confrontation still reverberating in her mind. Ali kept pace beside her, her calm presence steadying Emma's turbulent thoughts. Shadows stretched across buildings, blending reality and memory. Emma pondered the choices ahead, balancing the desire for justice with the need for personal healing. The night air was crisp, carrying the scent of rain and distant traffic. Every street corner reminded her of moments of betrayal, yet also of the strength she had discovered within herself. Ali's gentle words encouraged reflection, offering perspective without judgment. Emma realized that rebuilding trust required patience, courage, and a willingness to confront both past and future. Emma and Ali paused at a small bridge, overlooking the river, the water shimmering with the reflections of city lights. Emma's mind replayed moments of betrayal and courage, the journey leaving her both exhausted and empowered. Ali's presence reminded her that strength could coexist with vulnerability. She traced patterns in the water with her gaze, reflecting on lessons learned and choices yet to be made. The gentle flow of the river offered a contrast to the storm of emotions inside her. Emma spoke softly, articulating fears she had kept hidden, while Ali listened, nodding in understanding. The night felt infinite, a space for contemplation and tentative hope. Emma realized that healing was not linear, but required acceptance of past wounds and careful steps toward reconciliation. Emma reflected on the impact of Lucas's betrayal, recognizing how deeply it had shaped her perspective on trust and relationships. She felt a mixture of sorrow, anger, and newfound determination. Ali remained near, offering silent strength that contrasted with the turbulence of Emma's emotions. The city skyline shimmered in the distance, a reminder that life continued beyond personal struggles. Emma traced each lesson learned, committing to growth and vigilance. She understood that trust once broken could be cautiously rebuilt, but only with patience and integrity. The night wind carried distant sounds of traffic and conversation, blending with the rhythmic pulse of her heartbeat. Ali's calm presence was a grounding force, helping Emma navigate the complex landscape of emotions. Together, They faced the uncertainty of tomorrow, fortified by shared resilience. Emma revisited the cafe where the confrontation had occurred, a place now laden with memories of tension, truth, and revelation. Each table, chair, and sunbeam seemed infused with significance. She and Ally sat quietly, sipping warm drinks, allowing silence to speak for moments words could not capture. The air smelled faintly of coffee and pastries, grounding Emma in the present. She felt gratitude for Ally's unwavering support and pride in the courage she had summoned. Conversations and ambient sounds filled the space, yet Emma remained absorbed in reflection, considering how trust could be rebuilt carefully. Shadows shifted across the floor, a reminder that time moved inexorably forward, and with it, the chance to reclaim stability and understanding. Emma left the cafe with a sense of cautious optimism, the confrontation behind her and clarity ahead. Each step felt purposeful, a reclamation of agency and self-respect. Ally walked beside her, sharing smiles that conveyed understanding and mutual resilience. The street seemed familiar yet subtly transformed, reflecting the internal growth Emma had experienced. She breathed deeply, appreciating the balance between vulnerability and strength she now carried. The city moved in its rhythm, but Emma felt a personal equilibrium she had long sought. Decisions that once seemed impossible now felt manageable, anchored in truth and supported by trust rebuilt slowly. Emma's heart felt lighter, the future uncertain but navigable, guided by lessons of betrayal, courage, and companionship. Emma awoke to the soft glow of morning sunlight streaming through her apartment, a quiet contrast to the turbulence of previous days. Ally sat nearby, sipping coffee, her presence grounding Emma in the calm that finally felt earned. The city hummed faintly outside, a reminder that life continued beyond personal battles. Emma reflected on the confrontations, revelations, and lessons that had shaped her journey. She felt a mix of relief, lingering anger, and newfound clarity. Each breath was steady, each thought purposeful, guiding her toward decisions grounded in truth and courage. Ali's supportive smile reassured her that no challenge had to be faced alone. Emma's heart carried a gentle hope, a delicate balance of caution and optimism for the future she was determined to reclaim. Emma and Ally walked through the early morning streets, the crisp air filling their lungs with clarity and purpose. Emma's mind replayed lessons learned from Lucas's betrayal and the confrontation that followed. She felt stronger, more self-aware, and determined to navigate relationships with wisdom and discernment. Ally matched her stride, offering encouragement without intrusion, a silent affirmation of partnership and trust. The city seemed both vast and intimate, each corner reflecting memories, growth, and possibility. Emma realized that healing was an ongoing process, shaped by courage, reflection, and patience. She embraced the quiet optimism rising within, knowing that the future could be reclaimed and shaped with intention. Emma paused at a park bench overlooking a small fountain, the gentle flow of water reflecting the serenity she had fought to achieve. Ally sat beside her, exchanging quiet words of affirmation. Emma considered how the betrayals had changed her understanding of trust, and how confronting the truth had transformed her perspective. Each ripple in the water mirrored the layers of emotion she had navigated: pain, courage, anger, and resilience. She felt gratitude for the lessons learned and pride in the strength she had discovered. Ali's steady presence reminded her that support and companionship could coexist with independence and personal growth. Emma's heart steadied, ready to face whatever lay ahead with integrity and hope. Emma and Ally stopped at a quiet cafe for breakfast, the aroma of coffee and pastries mingling with sunlight streaming through the windows. Emma felt a sense of accomplishment, the confrontation and revelations behind her replaced with clarity and focus. Ali's presence remained a comforting anchor, allowing Emma to reflect without fear of judgment. Conversations and ambient noise flowed around them, yet their attention rested on the calm after the storm. Emma considered the people she could trust, the boundaries she would uphold, and the strength she had gained. Each sip of coffee grounded her further, a small ritual affirming that life could continue with hope even after upheaval. As the sun rose higher, Emma and Ally exited the cafe, walking through streets now bathed in golden light. Emma's heart felt lighter, her mind clearer, and her spirit fortified by lessons of courage and reconciliation. She reflected on trust rebuilt, boundaries established, and the resilience she had uncovered. Ali's presence beside her symbolized partnership, support, and shared understanding. The city bustled with life, but Emma moved with purpose, each step a testament to her regained agency. Hope mingled with awareness, a delicate balance of optimism and vigilance. Emma knew challenges would arise, but she now carried the tools and confidence to face them. Together, they walked forward, a symbol of endurance, trust, and the promise of new beginnings.